Caddo Parish District Attorney James Stewart joins us for a little bit. Mr. James, how are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good.
I'm going to start with a headline. Erin passed this article along to me from the New Orleans, from the Times-Picayune, and the headline is Louisiana District Attorneys Pushing Back on Criminal Sentencing Changes. And I read the article, and it seems to me that the first problem we're having with this Justice Reinvestment Act, the sentence reform, is it's going to put a lot more burden of bureaucracy on parish DAs and their staffs. Do I read that right?
Not necessarily. It's just a process they're going to make some changes in the sentences. And I just really think what happens is people have their writers and they send out articles in the paper which are not factually based, and it scares the public, and in fact it's not truthful.
The sentencing changes, the felony sentencing changes, what does it actually mean for us as the public, and then what does it mean for your office as a prosecutor?
Over a number of periods of time, we put a lot of mandatory sentences in, and the problem with that is it has created a backlog in the jails. It's taken a lot of discretion away from judges. Sometimes it's very difficult to calculate what you're doing. So somebody went and saw that in other states they use a different system, and so they projected it that possibly we could use it in Louisiana. So that's what the conversation is about. DAs and other practitioners are talking about it from a very practical standpoint on a day-to-day basis. How will it affect what we do each and every day? And that's where the details come in, where other people who are looking at it a lot differently just say, well, do it, and we'll work out the problems later. So during this process, you just want to make, not that DAs are against it, it's just that the DAs want to make sure that it's workable when we get to court, and it doesn't make our job any more difficult than it is right now.
Mr. James, in that same article, Suzanne Williams, who works in your office, is quoted as saying it's really imposing a huge burden on those people who are the most overworked and the most underpaid. Who does she mean, and what is she referring to?
Well, you're dealing with probation officers, you're dealing with assistant district attorneys, you're dealing with public defenders. All those have to make this work. And so the underlying question is, can we get the same result by simply going through statutes, which they did in the last legislature, and making certain changes in the statutes to comply with what the goal is, or is this the best way? And that's the conversation. But it's a conversation that has to be had.
You brought that up, the goal. Is the goal to save money? Is it fairness? Is it more unification across the state? What would you see as the goal? Some are saying it's the governor wanting to save money and put some of the money back in the general fund.
I don't think that's the goal. The goal is just to make a better and a fair system. You got to realize you had people like Lobby, you had all kind of other people who were involved, the Koch brothers and all this, who were pushing reform in Louisiana. So it's not a partisan issue. It's a bipartisan issue. Everybody's just trying to make the system better. The Judicial Reform Act passed through the legislature once everybody sat at the table, hardly without anybody voting against it. So that clearly everybody's on the same accord trying to make our system better.
I was looking at that same article, and it talks a couple of times about what is referred to as a felony class system. Since I don't really have anything to do with the DA or legal or anything like, what is this felony class system, and is it a good idea? Is it going to be a problem for you guys? Explain that to us.
It's just like if you watch Law and Order and other TV shows, they'll talk about this is a class 5 felony or it's a class 3 felony, and you get that. It's just a matter of categorizing different cases in certain classes, and then when you look at the class, it has a certain sentence or a range of sentences in it. So whether or not it's better or not, I don't know. It's just like living in Louisiana. You have the civil law. You live in Texas, you got the common law. Is it better or not? It's just according to how it works in your system.
Now, this system is not yet in place. It looks like the task force is going to wrap up their work by February 1st and then send recommendations to the legislature. Am I correct about that?
Correct. Let's go back. Like I said, they took a couple of snippets out of a 2 or 3 hour meeting and wrote an article. The charge was to look at the system and see whether or not we should impose the felony class system or make other changes in the current system. So that's their charge from the legislature, and that's exactly what the issues that have been raised. That's one of the things they're supposed to do. I would tell the public not to panic over this. It has a long way to go. There are going to be a lot of meetings. There are a lot of smart people. Then it comes to the legislature, and everybody, the sheriffs, the DAs, the defense lawyers, the legislature will all sit at the table and work through all this.
The state task force that you referred to this point, would you give them, considering what they've done so far, a thumb up, a thumb down, or too early to tell?
Too early to tell. They're just in the preliminary. But I have somebody on the committee, and she's working very hard. She's spending a lot of hours. But one of the reasons I wanted somebody on the committee is to make sure that the interests of Caddo Parish are at least understood.